Last visual recording of First Admiral Afferntal. The footage kicked in and the dark room was lit up in a flickering artificial light. On the screen was a Lars, a red face creature that had similarly red protrusions coming out from the edges of her head like spines. Her eyes were completely red, but in a lighter shade, and she looked terrified by the way her spine-like protrusions wobbled and in the way her hairless brow was raised. Her voice was shaken when she spoke. We were once a happy galaxy. We had shed our warlike tendencies in favor of peace and prosperity. Indeed, the Total Disarmament Act had outlawed anything that sole purpose was to damage or kill. We explored the far reaches of our galaxy, found other interplanetary communities and some still to venture towards the stars, and taught them our pacifist ways. That is why, when we reached System 268B, now remanded the Sol system, we were appalled at what we had discovered. Humans, the most self-destructive creatures of all time. We knew that they would be a hard species to convert to pacifism before we even saw them, as we noticed their planet was a death world. We had just converted a death world to pacifist ways, and we thought we could do that same here. But then a war broke out. The humans call it the Second World War. We call it the Abomination. We immediately broke off all attempts to contact them. They were far beyond our help, far too suspicious and paranoid. A few decades after the war, we ventured back to Earth, even whilst the rest of the galaxy pleaded with us to not let the monsters out. But then we saw they had evolved into new barbarism. A proxy war had broken out. They spied on each other, friend or foe for intelligence, betrayed and backstabbed each other as they threatened nuclear annihilation. We decided to leave them after we sampled their culture, if you could call it that, and saw their reaction to aliens and saw their reaction was shoot and kill. There were many reactions to this. Even though we had created a paradise of pacifism, some of us were keener to blow them up, destroy them in the exact way their moving pictures depicted. We rejected this. In their outermost asteroid field, we set up impenetrable force fields. They couldn't leave. No one could get in. We let asteroids leave and their probes too, so that they didn't suspect anything. Our hope was they would kill themselves and we wouldn't have to worry. Actually, using the force field was the worst-case scenario. But they didn't die. About 95 years after the Abomination, they started to set up permanent colonies on the 4th planet, and within a century they were on the moons of the 5th and 6th planets. The First Admiral coughed up a bit of orange blood which trickled down her front. She wiped it off her chin and began talking again. We realized that they had nearly discovered FTL. They had advanced at unbelievable rates, far faster than any others before them. Their brains, it seemed, worked faster than the average sentient. This, in turn, lowered their life expectancy, and their sleep times were amazingly long as the planet went for an intelligence over strength evolution. Their first working FTL ship hit our force field and exploded. We all shrank back at this. They had launched a ship to the stars asking what was out there, and the stars yelled back no. The humans didn't do much else. They just stopped. Or so it seemed. For the first time in 1,000 years, we began military preparation, the entire galaxy. I was among those who joined. We hoped to talk them down with overwhelming size, but that wasn't how it happened. We were sat outside the force field, waiting when more probes, more than ever before, were sent out. We let them out. We had no reason to not, and waited even longer. Psychological warfare, they called it. They had a name for war to make your opponent mentally exhausted. Then their fleet came. Impossible numbers at impossible sizes. They had expanded so fast it was impossible to see how back then. Later we found out they always knew we were there. Their probes scanned us. The tech was so backwards we didn't even see it coming, and they built their ships from what they saw of us. They shot at the force field with a volley, unlike anything we had seen before. Then the force field broke, overloaded by firepower. I am ashamed of what we did next. We started to shoot at them. Were we frightened? Definitely. But the humans didn't fire at us when the force field dropped. She coughed up the orange blood again, and the video started to fail. The ceiling spat sparks at the floor and over her body. The war, the horrible war, began afterwards. The humans won the battle we began, and the pushed. We tried to communicate our surrender, but they spoke differently than we did. We could understand their writing, but they couldn't comprehend ours as we talked through releasing gases. They made the air dance for them. So the war went on. Battle after battle, they won, we lost. We had 1,000 years of peace, and they had 2,000 years of war. They could fight. We could not. My ship was destroyed after the battle for the homeworld. They've glassed our planet. All the people there are dead like so many other worlds. A silent tear streamed down her eye. She was choking now, gasping for air. The sparks remorselessly spat down on her as if disgusted, and she died. Not long after the recording itself failed, it was sent out alongside the emergency transmission. On the other side of the galaxy, they watched horrified. Already they were removing logos and flags of association, so when the humans came, they would stop and see they had met the border. But now they knew the humans wouldn't stop, and they couldn't stop them.